Happy birthday, Brakken.
Happy birthday, Kirk.
It's just a love fest over here. So I always forget our age discrepancy, but is it 3 years or 4 years?
I just turned 37.
So it's 4 years because I just turned 41. In fact, it's 4 years and 3 days, technically.
3 days. And I thought you were the 18th and then just posted on the 17th.
17th, yes. You realize...
Everyone in my life, not everyone, but my dad's the 7th. A guy that's not our brother, but is like non-biological brother, is adopted into the family, but not actually family. You know, one of those, like my uncle who's not actually blood uncle, but is closer to me than any of my uncles. He has an adopted son. He's the 6th. So we have the 6th and the 7th. My parents' anniversary is the 15th. My brother's birthday is the 19th. I'm the 20th. And I thought you were the 18th, but you're the 17th. So like most of the people in my life are clumped right in the same couple weeks here.
I share my exact birthday with 4 people I know, and of which 2 I'm fairly close with. And maybe it's just because it's my birthday and we're all, we're the center of our own universes, but it feels like there's a ridiculous amount of people in this like couple week window whose birthdays are now. And maybe everybody feels that way about their birthday because they're more in tuned with the things surrounding their birthday, but I feel like it's everybody's birthday in this last week or two. So happy birthday to us and everybody else in the world, apparently.
Absolutely.
So we're going to jump into episode pretty quick here, but I just want to know real quick what you did or how you're going to celebrate, and then we'll move on. Because, for example,
nothing.
I usually do something big workout-wise for my birthday. Every year for the past since I was 37, so 37, 38, for 4 years in a row, I did something big for my birthday. This is the first year I have not. In 5 years, I didn't do a big birthday workout by design. So do you have anything like that you did or anything?
No, it's just same kind of thing. It's the first year in a while I haven't. Last year I did 36 reps of the ski hill. Year before I ran the time trial around Lake Geneva, and I did that for, I think, 3 straight years. But this week was my first full week back of training since I damaged my MCL. And I've been training, but this meant going back outside. So I ran outside and did a mini hill workout, mostly the up, and then either walking or dogging it on the downs. But I ran 2 gradual downhills and felt a little beat up from it. But then the next day, Lisa and I ran trails together. And then I was on my feet all day, all weekend for Braden's karting. So my legs are actually kind of beat up. So I don't have it in me today to go do something heroic, nor would it be smart. So after this, I think I'm just going to go out on my favorite trail and run like an hour and say, hey, I've now run outdoor 3 times in the last 2 months, and call it an old man win.
You're not old manish yet. I will tell you that. Well, I have done 37. I ran 37 miles on my 37th birthday. I basically raced a 50K and then survived. 38, I ran a 50K on the Superior Hiking Trail. 39, I ran a solo 50K for funsies. And then at 40, I did 40 by 400 meters. And at 41, I did 16-mile long run and nothing out of the ordinary that I wouldn't have done on any other week. Mostly because I have a half coming up in 6 weeks, and so I wanted to stay on track for this one, so I decided not to go mess with something big that would then affect this week's training. So stuck to the script by choice. That was it.
Still you got 16 in. That's a nice celebration of 41.
Yeah, the math doesn't really go into each other, but whatever. Okay, so oh yes, go ahead.
Well, I'm in a transition period, Kirk, where I always do big, long stuff on the weekends, and I don't have that anymore because Braden's racing has kicked it up a notch. So I'm now a Monday through Friday person, and my Saturday, Sunday are leftover pieces. Recovery, and if I get anything in, that's cool. But I've never had that before in my life. So it's a strange time to be alive. I'm like officially to the point where I am not first or second priority fitness wise in my family or sport wise. I think I'm third in priority, So the weekends are no longer mine unless I get up very early. And like this weekend, we were up till 11:40. I think I left the garage at 11:40 from working on the cart and getting it prepped. So by the time I was, get all the grease off me, it was 12:30, asleep by 1, up by 5 something to get the final touches on the cart. I didn't want to get up 3 hours later and get a long run. So I have that balancing act to figure out now. And I know there's a lot of parents like, hey, it's about time. Welcome to the party. And that's true. But it doesn't change the fact that it's new to me and I've got to figure it out.
Well, the good news is you're self-employed, although you have a demanding schedule with everything, workout-wise, child-wise, husband-wise, all of that. You could probably find a way. I have an athlete right now who works 12-hour shifts Monday through Thursday, 6 to 6. 12. I have 2 athletes that work this schedule, and it's like, what can be done Monday through Thursday, and then what do we do with Friday through Sunday? And you're just sort of the opposite. You're so consumed with Braden's karting that you're gonna have to rejig. Like your long runs may have to be Thursday, and it's just what it is. Yeah. And what are you gonna do, right?
Right. Yeah, and I'm not complaining. This is not even a hassle. It's just a learning curve quick here, and I have flexibility, so you're right, it's going to be fine. I'm looking at which morning I'm going to clear my schedule, like for nothing when I would normally do my morning calls, just bump those and then make that my long run day. But either way, life's good. I'm starting to get a taste for and enjoying the karting track life. So it's really just like the other side of the coin from track and field. There's still an order of events each day, and you're listening to which event is next and what's on deck and timing your fueling and timing you got to warm up the engine and the brakes instead of your body. But like there's a lot of parallels there, and I find myself getting into the track rhythm, and it's kind of fun. So I'm not complaining.
Seconds matter. Fractions of seconds matter. Tactics matter.
Just we're
like
down to the tenths and hundredths matter.
And we don't have time to get into it today because this is going to be a little shorter episode, but your kid is really good. He sounds like Braden's like real good, and it's going to be a problem.
He's improving really rapidly.
It's going to be a problem for you because he's going to be committed very quickly to racing, which is a privileged and fantastic position to be in, but it's only going to get worse or better, however you look at it for your training. So, whoops.
Yeah.
So
there are 2 kids in his class right now that run the national events and have placed at nationals, and one who hasn't lost a race in the Midwest so far this year. And Braden finished 0.149 behind him yesterday. And last week he was 2 seconds behind him. So his learning curve is short.
Crackers
anyway,
are athletes.
He's got a lot to learn, but
we had gymnastics, basketball, track and field, or baseball, and now driving. They'll find a way. The Crackers do.
That's right. If drivers are athletes, we'll add that to the fold. I'm not sold yet.
So and I told you this. So I train a professional driver, right? In the gym, I train him. Aaron Tielitz. He's been a professional driver for, I don't know, the last 5-6 years, and he's good. He drives for Lexus. Anyways, so I had asked him to do a favor for me and put on a heart rate monitor for his last for one of his last races. He's in full kit, full suit, and this was somewhere between a 2 and 4 hour event. He does endurance events. Anyways, take a stab. I think he was in car for I don't know, 2 and change. You know what his heart rate average was in the car? Take a guess. Any guess?
It's got to be plus or minus from 168.
It was somewhere between 162 to 166 average for over 2 hours in the cart. The guy can lose like 8 pounds of water, and he's not a big guy to start with. When he starts describing the exertion and the heat and the intensity, you're an athlete if you're driving at that level. So yes, Braden's an athlete. That's a big output.
Well, there you go, Braden.
Yep, there you go, Braden, if you listen. Okay, we're gonna move on here. So we have about 45 minutes for an episode today. And we thought we've been teaching you guys, we've been splitting hairs a lot lately on these Training Tuesdays. Like we have gone deep on specific topics, I think for like months on end, have we not? from what I recall. And so
Yeah.
we're just going to do a little story sharing today. It was your idea, Brakken. Kick us off.
Well, I want to talk about some of my lowlights. I like getting nostalgic on historically important moments, so like a birthday, looking back at what you've done and what you haven't. And when I think about running highlights, my lowlights are just paired to that for some reason. And so I'm going to focus mostly on some of my worst running memories in my entire life.
Lovely.
And I think you probably will have some highlights in there. But I'm going to focus mostly on my lowlights.
So why, like, okay, it's your birthday. It's like, yay, you're the best today and today only. So let's talk about the good things about you and your life. And your mind instantly is like,
Yeah.
let's do something a little different today. And you're like, let's talk about the crap days we've had. Like, that's right where your brain went. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Well, I think we're masochists as endurance athletes. And what is the point of doing your 40 by 400 or 37 miles on 37th birthday, or me time trialing a 21-mile trail when it's 90 degrees out? Like the point is to test yourself and to come close to breaking yourself and remind yourself what you're capable of and what you can survive on your birthday as a good reminder of what have I done to get here, and this is who I am at my core. We are who we are at our worst. That's what defines us. So I think it's just kind of in vein with that
Yeah.
we are not always just our successes. We're our failures.
You're not wrong. We are who we are at our worst moments. At least we are completely uncovered, right? The onion is peeled back at that very point.
Yeah.
It's easy to be the man or the woman or the greatest person ever when you're riding a high, but not so much a low, right? You find out a lot about somebody's character in those crummy moments. So I'm assuming you have a thing or two that comes to mind off the top of your head. So since it's your special day, why don't you kick us off?
Okay. Well, if anyone ever asks me like, what's the worst run you've ever had? It's not even close. It's my first run in college. And just setting the stage a little bit, I had, if you're new to the podcast, the way I got a college scholarship was not by being fast, because I didn't even really go through puberty until I was like a junior in high school. And so I didn't get above, I finally was 5'10" to start my senior year. I started my freshman year, I was 5 foot, 100 pounds, 102 technically. So I grew a lot, and so I just wasn't that fast for a long time. So I finally started running quicker my senior year, but by that point, anyone who knows athletics, the scholarships are gone. Mm-hmm. Like you get your scholarship offer your sophomore year if you're really good, junior year if you're not as good, and by the time you're a senior, you're fighting for scraps. So I just went out and I sent athletic resumes to every single D1 school in the nation that I thought I could potentially run for. And I got 3 letters back, I think, 4 letters, 2 calls, 1 offer. I took that offer.
By the way,
I built up all summer because I ran about. Go ahead.
I was watching my YouTube, stuff. And so Brakken went to Campbell University. If you've been listening for a while, you would know that, at least initially. And they have a few good runners this day and age. Like you labeled it as like a tier 2 D1 school. Like, okay, it's D1, but really sort of with the...
That was generous.
Correct. But I saw a few guys really ripping, running 1340 or so from Campbell, like some guys that can really run. So they must have a program now, which they might not have then.
Yeah, They discovered a Kenyan pipeline about 3 years after I left. They brought a kid over who ended up going to the national meet several times, and he would run up at the front. I think Kemboy was his name, and he was always up in the mix. And then from then on, like once you have a connection over there, then you start. Every time that village has something, then you already have the people in place. So now they have a consistent African contingent that comes over and runs for them. So now, that you could cross that another school off my list I wouldn't be able to run for.
Okay. Well, the gentleman that I saw racing, I assume was an African because he was Caucasian, and he was also running fast. So I didn't know about the African contingency. But anyways, not to detract from your story, I'm sorry, but I thought that was interesting because they had good runners, and I didn't expect that because he went there.
Yeah.
That's according to your words, not mine.
I didn't expect that because you were there. But that's true. I didn't deserve a
That was
D1
tongue-in-cheek,
scholarship.
folks.
I was not a D1 runner. But it's true. A lot of humor, the best humor is based in reality, and that's based in reality. So I was like an 18 to 22 mile per week runner in high school. And our college coach says everyone runs 70 miles per week. And I couldn't really grasp what that was, so I just started building up mileage. I got up to 30, and then I got up to 40, and then I got up to 50 miles by the end of the summer per week. And I thought, I'm just in such monster shape, like I'm bulletproof, nothing can hurt me. So I went down there, and they have a tradition. We have two medium long. We have a medium long and a long route down there. Campbell University is set off in the middle of farm country, in the middle of Nowheresville in North Carolina. We are an hour and a half from Raleigh. The closest major city is Fuquay-Varina, and that is not a major city. So you're just in the middle of nowhere. You're surrounded by soybeans, cotton, just farmland. There's no cover. It is hot and just asphalt roads. And so you could just run left out of campus or right out of campus. And so most of our runs were out and backs, but we had a 10-mile loop and a 16-mile loop. And very first day of practice, as basically the sorting ceremony, everyone ran the 16-mile loop, and it essentially became a measuring contest, Kirk.
Yeah.
And everyone on the team wanted to see where they stood. And because our program was in shambles, we had 11 people on the team and 10 were incoming freshmen.
Oh.
So we only had one returner, and everyone was vying for who's going to be on the traveling squad, who's going to be good this year. And so it gets built up. The hype gets built up. You're on campus for a week before the first practice, and now it starts. And it was like, I want to say it was 90 degrees at 6:30 in the morning when we set off, and humid because it's August in North Carolina. And we went like, everyone's like, calm down. We're going to start slow, and then we're going to build. So it was like 6:36 first mile, 6:20 second mile, 6:12 third mile, and everyone's feeling great and rolling. And by mile 4, I realized I am not ready for whatever's happening here. And every single mile from that point on. So I made it 4 miles into the run before I realized this is getting bad quickly. And slowly we just all get disengaged from the lead pack. And it was like a death march. I spent the next 12 miles dying a terribly painful death. And there's just no shade anywhere, baking down. It's like 95 degrees, and then it's 98 degrees. And I had to start taking walk breaks. It was my first day of college scholarship running. And by the end, I was having to walk jog this run, Kirk. And they set us out 10 minutes ahead of the women. And at mile, I think 12, the top woman caught me. And then by mile probably 14, the next pack with our head coach in it caught me as I was walking. And it was just the most horrific experience of my life. Everything was shutting down and embarrassment on top of it. I couldn't do anything more if you asked me to. He could have said, I'm going to yank your scholarship if you don't run all the way in. And I couldn't do it. And every second I was out there, I bled out worse. And like both sides cramped. And I couldn't get my heart rate down. I couldn't get my breathing to stop gasping, even when I would just start jogging again. It was just the worst run of my entire life, and that was my introduction to college running.
Were you the 11 people? Were you number 11?
Nope.
There were some people behind you?
I was either 9 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And why weren't you prepared
but it was the kind
for
of thing
this
where you're
run?
looking over your shoulder.
You said, this is really endearing to hear because this is our lives right now, and people must think, I think some people out there think like we've had it easy our whole lives and everything's been successes that have bumped us forward into our now position of whatever you want to call what we do. But it's not that way at all. And you're starting to jog my memory of some terrible, terrible performances of my own. But why weren't you prepared? You said that you ran 50 miles a week, the most mileage. Were you just not ready for that pace and that heat? Was it a bad day? What was it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was entirely the pace. I had done a 15-mile and a 16-mile run in my build-up. All the rest are like 10 to 12. So I didn't do a good enough job prepping for that. And I wasn't a hard enough worker back then. This was the first summer I had ever trained. in running, and I was still running not enough. So I wasn't ready quite for the distance, but I completed my 16-mile run, but I had run it. And this, for me at that time, I mean, I came out of high school as a 16:54 5K runner. Running 6:12 in the third mile of a 16-mile run in the heat is not appropriate.
Yeah.
I just got caught up in it. You didn't feel a thing. You were in a pack of 11 guys, and it was like a race morning. We were so amped up. And it was entirely pacing. And then the heat murdered me once I cracked. But it was just pacing and not being ready to run what D1 runners can casually run for paces.
What was the conversation with your coach and teammates after that?
I mean, we were like the Walking Dead at the end. He had this little hut on the edge of campus. It was this little.
I would label that
the whole
poor coaching,
Campbell University
by the way.
camp.
That's poor coaching, if I have to be honest, with what was set up there. No governor restrictor plates put on. No, hey, freshmen go this way, rest of you go this way. I call that shitty coaching, or at least lack of direction. You can give me your thoughts, but.
Well, I'm a little biased because I do not think there was any level of coaching down there. He was the kind of coach that, like, freshmen are a gnat. They're just an annoyance on my existence. And by the time you're a junior, you start to become a human being in my eyes.
But his whole team
and then
is
your
freshmen.
your fourth and fifth year. Well, that's the problem, right? He had a certain way, a certain style. The seniors loved him. On the women's side, there were several upperclassmen, and they were just obsessed with the man. They loved him. They would do anything for him. But he had nothing but disdain for freshmen. And unfortunately for him, we were all freshmen. So we didn't get any real coaching. We get like a sarcastic reply or just like a disgusted look, and that was it. So we were just commiserating. The whole campus is red brick, and he had this little red brick, like, looked like an equipment storehouse, but that was his office right on the edge of campus. And we made it back there and just like plopped down in the shade and tried to drink water and stumble back to our dorms and just were like shell shocked. Like, what are we doing? We have 10 tomorrow morning. What are we doing here? Mm-hmm. Couldn't even contemplate the walk back to our dorm, which was like 800 meters, and we had 10 waiting for us in the morning. It was just that welcome to D1 running. Just horrific. I was ready to get back on a plane right then and leave.
And we've hinted towards this on previous podcasts over the years, but you sort of are, your social status, at least early, becomes your ability level when you're on a collegiate team like that, or a high school team, anything. Like, the better you are, the higher your social ranking in an unspoken way, we will say. And then to go in and try to impress and make your footprint and then have women pass you from the team when, like, there's probably a high interest level in being in their favor as an incoming freshman. And the whole thing, like feeling bad about your fitness, being embarrassed, teammate and coach, and then like the social side of it, which goes unspoken, is like, ugh. There's like a pretty rude awakening to leaving home for the first time and going to college. So that sounds like a bad day. Like, it's about as bad as it gets. You could have shit yourself. That would have made it worse. But I can't find any other way it would have been worse than that.
I didn't even have any fluids left in my body to possibly diarrhea myself. It was impossible. I would have just like had dust fall out of me.
Yikes. It reminds me, do you want to dwell on that, or do you want me to jump to one of mine here?
No, I'm starting to get depressed here, so move on. There's just, I can't comprehend that I could have a worse run than that. Like, I think the title's been taken, and I pray to God I can't have a worse. Even Killington, when I went out for a second lap without fuel and ran for like, 3 hours and 40 minutes on fumes, was not as bad as that. There's nothing ever close to that sense. Even Dubai, when I had heat exhaustion, was not as bad as that. Nothing. I'll never top that.
Well, I'm going to use this as a teachable moment, my next story. And this is only far in hindsight, but it's when I began learning that the recovery hammer swings back hard, and it can also be delayed. By that I mean my sophomore year of college at University of Oshkosh. I caught on to track pretty quickly. I was a All-American in the 1500 as a freshman. I was our 11th or 10th runner on our cross-country team. So they don't really math correct. Well, my stay power needed work, right? And so I earned myself all the way up to our 7th runner. We were a national championship team that year, so we had the best squad in the country, but I was basically fighting for a position on it now, which was a big deal. And they invite to the Notre Dame Invitational every year. They invite the national championship or top 3 schools from Division 3 and 2 get to go to this big D1 meet and run like the gold race with the squad, right? Like you're with the best of the best. You're in the D1 powerhouse. Consider this like a pre-nats almost. And there we are, UW Oshkosh. I'm the slowest one that was brought on the team, according to, where my tier ranked. Sandwiched between Stanford and Notre Dame. My shoulder was brushing Ryan Hall's shoulder, for example. Former Foot Locker champ, Notre Dame, Tim Nelson is right next to me on the other side. These guys, Wisconsin was there. Everybody was there. Like, doesn't matter. And we were really motivated and had a week off from racing the week prior, and I ran my first 70-mile week I'd ever run in my life. This is my sophomore year, 75 miles. I was really pumped about training, and I put it all in, had a great week. My confidence was at an all-time high, and coming off a rest week in college, which we race every week normally, I was like, I'm ready to smash Notre Dame. Like, I'm ready to run with the big boys, right? Anyways, this is my first lesson in the fact that following a big week, guess what? You don't just come around. And yes, I deloaded going into the race for 2 days, but my body didn't respond very well to this, and nor did I expect what was going to happen. But we take off, and I come through mile 1 in like 5:03 or something, and I look back, and I'm at dead last, hanging on to the very end of the pack, already over my head. And the most embarrassing thing for me was that my high school girlfriend, I met her at the YMCA. She went down to run at Mississippi State on full scholarship. So we broke up, right? I went to college. She went down to Mississippi. She was a star athlete. Mississippi State was there. And her name was Trina. And Trina was there watching. And her parents were there, who I knew well. And it was like, what has become of Kirk, right? I dumped her, by the way. I didn't want to do the long distance thing. I broke up with her. It was a weird thing. Anyways.
There seems to be a pattern here, you blindsider.
So I go to the biggest race of my career, go out in 5:03. I'm in dead last. There's 200 people in this race. I'm dead last of 200 people. And I'm over my head in dead last. I'm like, this isn't going to work. Side cramps come on. I am so over rev with legs that just don't want to work that day. And pretty soon I am a straggler. Long story short, I run like 28:06 at the Notre Dame Invite on a flat golf course where Ryan Hall runs like 22:58. I'm like 5 minutes behind the winner and am pity clapped on the way in by my ex-girlfriend and her parents, and my whole teammates are already done. And I have never felt worse about myself in my entire life. And also the worst part about that was that we had 5 guys that raced well. We beat the 11th ranked Division I NCAA school that meet. I was the only one. My team, everybody nailed it, except me, who's like a minute and a half back from our 6th guy. It was the worst running day of my life. There. I don't know if that rivals yours, but it was embarrassing. Brakken, coach in good faith, brought me along because he knew I was coming up. I was an All-American already in the mile. Of course I could handle the Notre Dame Invite, right? Nope. So that was my experience there.
I can't say mine is any worse. It's just different. That's terrible. Now, I said this last time. You touched upon the start of this story once, but I'm going to say the same general reply I said last time, which is, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about there are levels to things and then we're comfortable talking about our times versus your times or other people's times, this is why. This is why Kirk and I can never have a running ego, because Kirk ran a 5:03 mile, which 99% of the planet would kill for a 5:03 mile. And he did it on grass, which is slower. And he was dead last in his race, and they only got farther away from there. So anytime he and I have ever thought we're starting to get fast, we were abruptly slapped in the face with the realization that there are levels to it, and there are always crowds of people faster than you. Yep. Crowds. And
always.
It is so demoralizing to realize how fast the fast people are.
Yeah, that day was definitely humbling. Made you wonder, like, what should I keep showing up to practice, or should I just like phone it in, you know? And of course, I kept showing up, and I actually had some really good races to finish off the season, and we were national champs that fall, so like it worked out. But what's another one you've got?
Okay, I'm not going to do embarrassing, even though there is an embarrassing factor to this story. I'm just going to go terrible, miserable experience running. This would have probably been 2013, I would say. This was my last year. I don't know what the timeline was, but this might have been my last year in Wisconsin before we left to Colorado, unless this was in one of the brief times that we came home in between different leases and spent a couple months at home. Either way, it was in the middle of winter in Wisconsin. I think it was January, and I was prepping for, it was either a Spartan race or a Savage race, but it was down in Florida, and there was going to be a bunch of swims. That was the rumor. And I wish I could remember which race it was. In my mind, I was prepping for a Savage race down in Florida. And unless it was a Battle Frog, it doesn't really matter. Point is, there was going to be this obstacle course race that you were going to have 6 to 8 miles of running, but the rumor was like 6 to 7 different swims on course. And by nature, I'm a strong swimmer for a person. The way I describe my swimming is if you put 100 random people in the pool, I'd be top 10. But if you put 100 swimmers in the pool, I'd be last. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm a strong swimmer, but I am not a swimmer, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. So I started to do these. I went down to our indoor pool down at Pulaski Pool in Milwaukee, and I would do a few interval workouts. And then I decided I needed some brick workouts, but it's January. You can't just hop out of the pool and run. So my plan was I was going to wear my compression shorts that I would just swim in. I wore my race shorts to do my swim workouts to just get used to that because I was so dialed in, Kirk. So I would have that, and I would wear my winter clothes over the top, and I ran to the pool, did my swim intervals, and then following the last one, as fast as I could get dry, get into my clothes, and then 5-mile tempo home. That was going to be my brick workout. But again, this is like January 13th. It's probably 5 degrees out without wind chill. It's below 0 with wind chill. Slightly uphill coming home, so it was just going to be a good grind. It's going to be a great workout. So I get there. I get changed. I'm just in my running briefs and my compression shorts, and I hop in the pool. I do my last set. It's a long set. It was like a 600-meter interval, as hard as I could swim. Hop out, dry off quick, get to the locker, and realize I didn't bring extra underwear. All I have are my tights. My compression shorts and underwear are soaked. And I had brought a little plastic shopping bag along to wrap those in and just carry on the way home. But my arm pump and my gas being starting to fade. Like, I don't have another option. So I dry off the best I can. I throw on all my warm clothes, but all I have on my lower half is a pair of tights. And I get that on, and I start running outdoors, and I get about a mile down the road. I turn left to start my 4.5, probably 4.2 left run uphill to the house, and the wind hits me, and I realize I'm in a world of trouble. These are not wind blocker tights. I have nothing on underneath, and I'm slightly damp. And it was horrible.
Are we talking about a specific
What would you do in that situation?
Region of your body that was in trouble, or everything?
My thighs were very cold. My groin, Kirk, my groin
Yeah.
was instantly in trouble. Instantly. So what I decided to do was I had to, because it's about 5 degrees and it's below zero with wind chill, I couldn't just take off my hat and stuff it in there because I would get frostbite on my ears. And I couldn't just take off my gloves and do the same thing because I would get frostbite on my hands. So what I did is I alternated things. I took my hat off and stuffed it in the front of my pants, and I'd run for like 60 seconds. Then I'd put that back on, take a glove off, stuff that around myself, run for like 60 seconds until my left hand started going numb. I'd take that out, put it back on, and put the other glove back down there. And that's what I did the entire run home, running as hard as I could into the wind, turning into a very, very diminished popsicle. And I got home in actual agony. And I hadn't brought my phone because I didn't have anywhere to put it really. And I didn't want to have to worry about it. And I was too cheap to pay for a locked locker down there. So I wasn't bringing my phone with me. So I didn't have a way to just like call for a ride. I had to get home. And it took me, I'm not kidding, probably 30 minutes after I got home to get to the point where I wasn't severely worried that I was going to have long-term damage. The unthawing process was every bit as painful as the freezing process.
Yikes. Well, first of all, I want to, if I could pat you on the back and give you a that-a-boy for your dedication to your craft, I would. I'm not there to do that in person, so I'll say it verbally. The dedication's astounding. The execution, I don't understand what's wrong with the treadmill at the facilities you were at. So there was a little bit of a bonehead.
This was just a pool.
Ugh. I could see
just
how
an
it happened.
indoor pool, a natatorium, Kirk.
Interesting. Well, that sounds absolutely miserable. Cold. Like, what was the temperature out?
If I'm recalling correctly, it was 5 degrees without wind chill, like -7 with wind chill.
That's horrifying.
I was struggling uphill to hold sub 6 minute pace. I think I averaged like 5:40, 5:50. And it wasn't even a tempo effort. I ended up just racing as hard as I could to try to get home. But with 4+ miles, let's call it 5 miles of that, that's just under 30 minutes of exposure with a slightly damp appendage.
And if anybody,
appendage was obviously very generous for what was happening. But
and anybody who knows Brakken's preference in tights, you like them very thin. You don't like insulated. You like...
No,
There was not much in the way of you and Mother Nature. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Did you regain? I mean, everything worked itself out eventually after the unthawing process?
I've never been the same. Yeah, it was fine.
Luckily, kids were before
but
that.
I was sitting there in the bed, afraid to get into the shower because that like water hitting me was terrifying. Like layered up down there with, socks and whatever I could, like a wristband to try to help me warm up, and wrapped in blankets, sitting there kind of like sick to my stomach. It hurt so bad. And Lisa's sitting there like, what do I do? What is there anything I can do to help? And it's like, no, you can't. She's like, do we need to go to the hospital? And I just kept telling her, like, give me 5 more minutes. If it doesn't get any better, we're going to have to go to the hospital. It was a very emasculating experience.
I mean, it would have really hit you on the efficiency piece, but you could have put your hands down your pants and ran covering yourself with your hands in your pants for as long as possible. I mean, that should
best I could
did the trick. Yeah. When was that? What year was that?
I tried everything. I think 2013. Okay. It might have been 2015. Okay. I'm not sure. A little hazy there.
Years ago. And were there swims? Did the swims end up panning
in terms of
out
acute
in the race?
pain?
Like, was this even necessary?
I had a great race.
You did? Okay.
Yeah. My swimming compromised running was spectacular.
You could feel your legs. It's helpful.
But in terms of acute pain, not like full body shutdown, just one area of my body, I've never had anything more uncomfortable during a run than that.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying. And you jogged a memory of mine here about swimming in a race. If you don't mind, I guess I'll share it.
Yeah.
And it's another one where I'm in dead last and I'm a pathetic loser. So it can offset any speed talk we've done recently on the podcast. But after college, this is only 2 years after my horrifying Notre Dame cross-country experience. I was pretty sick at the time. I was dealing with my health issues I had back then. So it factors in a little bit, but I wanted to do triathlons. And so I got my running times in college got me into the pro wave of my first big triathlon. It was in Door County. They still have it there every year. What are you laughing at?
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, Can't Bluff the Bluff. Is,
the pro wave.
Yeah, pro wave. And it was in June, and it takes place on the Bay of Green Bay. The Bay of Green Bay is Lake Michigan, for those that don't know. It's a finger off of the lake. It's a giant body of water. You can't see across it. You look out, it might as well be an ocean. Well, a storm had come in, and we had 4 to 6 foot waves that morning, and so they had to delay the start by an hour. I had never open water swam. I only had done my swimming in the pool. I've done like my lake up at the cottage. I'd swim, and it's a little lake, and it's very different. Well, so they delay. The waves go down to like 3 feet. They call it acceptable. And when you are in a triathlon, you have buoys. That's all you have to guide. It's not like you have lines in a pool or anything. And that's my first triathlon ever. And I'm in the pro wave. I think I was the only one without shifter. I had like a regular bike without bull horns or, aero bars on them. And, anyways, I show up to the start line, feeling pretty confident in what I had done. And I look around, and there's, I don't know how many of us were in the pro wave, 70, maybe 70, maybe almost 100. I don't remember. There was a lot. And I look around, and out of everybody there, I'm the only person not wearing a wetsuit. I'm the only white as you can imagine guy without a wetsuit on. And they make you get in this water and sitting there as they bark out instructions. And first I realized, oh my God, this water's absolutely freezing. I'm in an ice bath right now. Never thought of that in June. Well, it's the Bay of Green Bay attached to Lake Michigan. The water's terrifyingly cold. So I'm going numb. The wetsuit is buoyant, so it helps you swim faster. And it's a layer of insulation, so it keeps you warmer. So I'm sitting there shivering, like, oh my God. And people are looking at me like you can tell I'm in over my head. They finally send us off. I'm not prepared for the mad dash that happens. Within the first 10 seconds, I get kicked right in the face. My goggles come off, and I have to immediately go stand back up, readjust, put them on, and I'm already in dead last place. I have never swam in these waves before. I can't tell where the heck I'm going. And I legit, for the first time in my life, thought that I was going to drown out there. I was going to die. And I'm not joking, because I drank so much water. I was so inefficient. And I get through this 3/4 of a mile swim. And the fastest guys were like 22 minutes, 21 minutes, if I recall. 19 maybe even. Could that be possible? I don't recall. Mm-hmm. Here comes Kirk at like 37 minutes. And I come out of the water. My whole family's there. I got some old college teammates that came. And the entire bike rack is empty. Nobody's even in transition. And my giant is sitting there all alone. There's crowds of people watching people come out of the water. And here I am, dead last. And not dead last, barely. Dead last to the point that everybody got out of their wetsuits, put their running or their bike shoes on, and is gone. So I have to get out, not only having the
Didn't
worst...
have trouble finding your bike.
My bike was bright orange, and it was obvious, but it didn't matter. And so then I get on the bike, and I try to get to work, and my chain breaks going up the bluff that they call Can't Bluff the Bluff, and I have to get off the bike, re-put the chain on, can't figure out what's wrong. Only one side of one link broke, so it was catching when I was trying to shift, so I couldn't shift anymore. I still ended up running the fastest 10K in the field, but it never changes the fact that when I came out of that water and the pro, in quotes, rack was empty, other than mine, it was like this sympathy look from everybody. I was getting passed by the open waivers that started minutes after us, going to the other racks that were still loaded with bikes. I felt like such a poser. And in fact, that was the last, one of the last, if not the last triathlon I ever did. That was it.
Wow.
Isn't that embarrassing?
That's Extremely embarrassing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's
Which
that.
is pretty much my first triathlon experience.
Well, let's do this. Let's give you one more
That was it.
story. Let's give you one more story, and then we're gonna wrap this due to time today. But I've said enough on my end. What about you? What's one more that comes to mind?
I'll just give you my worst race I ever felt. Worst race feeling. As bad as track and field hurt, this was the longest I've ever suffered on course. When Macaulay and I went over to Dubai for the Middle East Championship, the Middle East Regional Championship, probably 2018. Does that sound about right? I had been back from Colorado. Maybe it was 17. I had some residual fitness. I was still in very good shape, but I had given up the mountain work and the really long work. We went over there because they put on big money. So we get to the race, and the rumor was it was going to be between 18 and 21K, 18 and 21 kilometers. So you're looking at, we just called it fuel up to a half marathon is what we need to bring. Mm-hmm. It's going to be like 85 degrees at the start. It was going to be close to 95 degrees at the finish. It's the desert. We were running off in the middle of nowhere. And because of Spartan, it could be a little longer. So 18 to 21K, we thought it could be a mile or two longer. So I bring 2 gels along and decide it's a half marathon distance. They have water stations. We're not going to carry water. Well, it turned out to be 31K, Kirk. 31K. So 6 miles farther than we thought it was going to be. And we were guesstimating and were told by the course officials, the race directors, that they were thinking right around 2 hours, a little under for the winner. Sergey Pereligan was over there.
Folks, for who doesn't, the domestic folks, 19 miles is what this equates to.
And I was thinking maybe 12 or 13. Mm-hmm. Well, Gregory Basilico, maybe not Basilico, Gregory Rozanico, and Sergey Pereligan was over there. Sergey, who went on to win the Spartan Race World Championships in the same type of terrain. Well, we ran in a pack for about a mile, and I felt that the pace was slow. So I pushed the pace a little bit. We got to a Z-wall. I did my typical thing where I jumped from the corner. They weren't doing that over there, so I gained like 8 seconds right then, and then I just pushed on the gas. For the next hour, I just pressed it, and I got up to about a 75-second lead. It was just feeling great. And we get to mile 8, and I start suffering a little bit, and I get to 9, and I'm hanging on, and we get to 10. I'm like, all right. Sergey catches me at mile 11. We're like, I want to say 80 minutes into the race or something like that. It's obstacle course race, ton of vert carries. So about 80 minutes through mile 11, he catches me. I run in second for a while, and then I begin to fall apart. And then I begin to suffer. And then I start cramping. And then I start getting dizzy. And then I start getting physically ill. And I crossed the line in 3 hours and 17 minutes, Kirk. An hour 17 longer than we thought we were going to be out there, and I had nothing to get me through this. And I got done, and I had heat exhaustion. Not full-on heat stroke, but pretty good heat exhaustion. And I couldn't stand up without starting to vomit for probably 3 hours. If I was on my feet, I had to be hunched over with my head down, like chest level. And for the next 2 days, I was so sick just from heat exhaustion. It was so miserable. The last hour out there on course might as well have been a year. I was getting passed by everyone. The open wave went out, and there's this one woman with a camel pack on, and she and I just kept trading spots because she was running the sprint, and she would walk up the dune, and I'd walk up the dune. And she'd run down it, and I'd stumble down it, and then I'd catch her on the flat, and then she'd catch me on the next climb. And she was out there in like a cotton shirt that said like, "We're here for the beer," or something like that. And I'm racing at the Middle East Regional Championship, and I cannot drop this woman who is out there probably running her first race ever with her friends.
And to go all the way out there and do that in particular.
Yeah.
Was this a language barrier thing?
So horrible.
Was this like a you didn't understand, or was this spoken to you in English, understood what was happening, lied to?
not lied to. What turned out what happened is they used Google Maps to map out the course. So it came out to 21K, but there was like 4,000 or 5,000 feet of vert on the course. So anything that was up or down, they measured point to point.
Oh, God.
So there were 6-ish miles, 7 miles of up and down that just didn't get factored in to the course.
That is not good race directing, to put it kindly. So was there at least water out there for you and all of that?
There was, and this was interesting. You remember those cheap syrupy juices we would get in elementary school with our lunch tray with the tinfoil top you had to peel off? You sometimes get them in hospitals. They had that, but with water, because it's so dusty that the water blows into there. So they have tinfoil topped waters, and you could take one, but you couldn't litter. So you had one with you, and you would peel it off and try to had 6 ounces of water in there, and you'd splash half of it out, and then that was it to get to the next one.
So what place did you end up finishing?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I think it was somewhere between 8th and 10th.
Okay. And how far behind the winner were you? How much did you bleed out the last third of the race?
Oh my goodness, at least 30 minutes.
And did you beat your brother?
Last 6 miles. Yeah, he finished 2 or 3 spots behind me.
So you both
and
suffered.
with that, he won $1,000 and I won $1,200 for that.
So you must
type
have
of
finished
suffering.
in the top 10.
It was not worth it.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, they paid deep. It's the Middle East. And he still has not been paid. You know that? They said he sent him his money. They're like, I never got it. And they showed the receipt. They sent it, and it said to Sergey Perel again. They put it in his bank account because they did wire transfers for this.
Yeah.
He's like, that's not me. They're like, sorry, the money's been sent. You got to talk to him.
That's brutal. That's brutal, man. And especially because, that's your Brakken Kraker Spartan Pro, to go out there and misfire on a race like that when you've had a good track record of races stings a little bit extra.
It was so bad. And I didn't realize who Sergey was. I shouldn't have been pushing him. But that was the day I realized this is how people die in the desert. You get to the point where you just can't do anything more. You can't. Had I got to the finish line and there was no one there and I had to make it to civilization, I would have just died within the next hour. That's it. It was very, very enlightening to the dangers of the desert.
Yeah, that sounds like a terrible experience. We have to wrap this thing right now due to time today, but I'd be curious if we got some feedback from the listeners if they would like us to do it, because now I have a half a dozen things that pop in, both good and bad. If there's any takeaway value from these stories or not, where we could just talk to you about our failures for a Friday long run episode or a Saturday long run episode. Because I think from the outside, right, people who listen, think that it would be fair to assume that it's been mostly rainbows and butterflies and rose-tinted glasses, and a large part of our experience in tenureship was developed through big embarrassments and failures. So if there's an interest in an extended version of this, send us a message on the Running Public Instagram, and maybe we'll do a follow-up. But we got to cut it short. So is there anything you want to wrap with today on your big special day?
Yes. We had an interview with Joyce Abdo on Friday.
Yep.
And she left us with that she was heading out to High Rocks. And she had a PR of 118. And Joyce went out and ran 114. She took 4 minutes off her time. And so once again, she continues her PR streak. She's a machine. So congratulations, Joyce. The Running Public now is up to date that you did indeed go out and smash as usual.
Way to go, Joyce. I do have a question about qualifications. I have an athlete, Matt Lassanol. He lost by 6 seconds in his age group. 6 seconds. He was second in Anaheim. And the qualification standards to go to Worlds took one in his age group from that race, but the age group under his allotted 2 slots, and the age group under that allotted 2 slots. And in any other age group, Matt would have qualified 6 seconds. And he said he got no reps 6 times on the wall balls, which is where he could have found his 6 seconds.
Oh.
Matt, I'm sorry, man. And he's a heck of an athlete. Do you know how they decide those qualification numbers? Then we're really going to wrap this. But since you brought up High Rocks, so he's seeing if he gets in or not. But I just don't understand how 40 to 44 gets 2 spots, but 45 to 49 gets 1 at that particular race. It's confusing to me.
I don't understand it. Ironman does a similar thing where they say how many spots they're allocating to it, but they have a bit more of a system than High Rocks has a system, but I don't understand it. Matt Kemp is another guy who's talked about this. The UK race had, I'm just going to put a number on it, 4,000 participants, and they had 6 spots given out in his age group. In New York, they had like 10,000 participants and 2 spots.
Right.
And so, no, I don't know. Someone I'm sure knows, but I can't make sense of how they allocate spots.
Well, speaking of spots, since we're talking about athletes' results, Matt, I'm rooting for you to get in somehow. I don't know how it works, but 6 seconds.
Yes.
So tight. All right. We got to wrap. Happy birthday to you, Brakken. Thank you to Running Public for listening to us and our stories today. I think that's all we got. And congrats, Joyce.
Happy birthday to you, Kirk.
Oh, shucks. See you guys Friday.